Should be incoming. Welcome everyone. Ooh, we got some residual audio on that one, Windrunner.
It's on me. Yeah, I got it cleaned up.
Okay, great. Yep. All right, so welcome everyone. It is 1 minute before our start time. We are just wrapping up some technical setup. Make sure we are set. We are dual streaming today's symposium. We are in the Fantasy Grounds Academy's Discord using voice and audio. That is where we could get different Q&A questions in that way. We are also on Twitch. Windrunner will be reading questions coming through on Twitch from those watching from that audience. For today's format, those in Discord, we ask that you keep your mics muted or use push to talk. We have about 4 pre-generated questions we've already sent to Mongoose Matt and Mad Beardman that we're going to go through first, just kind of lay them up a little bit, and then we're going to open up to Q&A from the audience. If you've been at any of these before, it's similar format. We're just kind of narrowing it down to an hour now instead of an hour and a half to 2 hours. So we'll go through my portion as fast as possible, and then we'll try to give as much time as we can for those in attendance. And we don't have to hard stop at an hour, but we've told our guests we'll be stopping at the 1 hour mark. And we are 1 minute past our start time. With the time in hand, we're going to go ahead and start this off. So with us today from Mongoose Publishing is Managing Director and Game Designer Matthew Sprange, aka Mongoose Matt. Welcome, Mongoose Matt.
Good evening.
Yep. And a second guest, Colin. We call him affectionately Mad Beardman in the Fantasy Grounds community. He is a community rule set developer for Traveler, amongst other rule sets. Welcome, Colin.
Good evening again. Sorry I'm croaky. My weekend away gaming has left me with somebody's bug.
Yep, appreciate you still being able to make it, and I won't say another reason for our appreciation. I'll let maybe somebody else say it. This is our 3rd annual Mongoose Traveler Month here at the Fantasy Grounds Academy. For 3 years now, we've had these symposiums near the end of every month, and we got it in the very last day of this month, I think before midnight in the UK. So we got it in. This is the 2nd symposium this month. We had a couple weeks ago, we had Martin Doherty and Anthony Miller from the Page 121 vodcast. It went awesome. Had some great content there, and we really appreciate you guys coming again this year, 3rd year in a row, and doing this one with us. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, hello.
And with us in audience, we have, you could probably see it on the stream, a bunch of guests in here. I do want to give Windrunner the opportunity. He is the head of staff of the volunteers here. Do you have anything you'd like to share before we get going, Garner?
Yeah, I'm going to give you this plug that I always give you. I started these dedicated months for different rule sets a couple of years ago, and there has been nobody who has done a better job at taking this and running with it than G-Rex. So Greg, can't tell you thank you enough. And you do so much more in the community too, not just take care of Fantasy Grounds Academy, but also taking care of things like Smiteworks, and then now you're picking up some additional responsibilities with GaryCon and their virtual gaming convention, the part of their convention that's virtual. So great job, and thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Appreciate the sentiment. Thanks. All right, so we're going to get into it. We have 57 minutes remaining, and we're going to just start off with some of the questions. I'm going to start with Matt. These are some repeats from last time, but we do have new players, new audience members. So tell us about your tabletop gaming history.
Oh no, that's going back quite some time. Started off in primary school with the solo game books, Fighting Fantasy and Lone Wolf. And we had a supply teacher one day, saw us playing those books, and he says, I've got a game that I think you lot will enjoy. And it was Tunnels and Trolls. And just kind of hooked from that moment on. I was 12, begged my parents to get me the Red Box Basic D&D. and that's when things just exploded. Really, got after that, Judge Dredd, Traveller, got into AD&D, and been playing ever since. Really.
Right. All right. Same question for you, Colin. What's tell us a little bit about your gaming history?
I feel like I've repeated this a few times over the years. Yeah, so when I was in secondary school as well, I can't remember, I think 14, my art teacher, who was the father of one of my friends from school, basically said when I was in the art room, my son and some of his friends are playing this game. Do you want to have a look? And that was AD&D. And that's where it snowballed from there. We had a community gaming group based in a basement in the local library where I was as well. And that was called Breton Barbarians, and I think it was 14 or 15 then, and that went further on there. And actually, we joined another group, Rune Lords, who were based in a church in Peterborough, and that was swimmingly well until, of course, all the religious stuff happened, and we got kicked out. But it carried on from there many years ago.
Excellent. So coming up, and I know these feel like repeats, and they are in some respect, but I'm gonna actually pick on you guys a little bit more on this next question. So Matthew, tell us a little bit what got you going with Mongoose Publishing. Maybe start with the origins of Mongoose Publishing. Give us some of the gritty details of the beginning.
Yeah. Well, in my early mid-20s, I was working as a field engineer fixing various computer systems, and I had a friend that I knew from primary school. In fact, he was the guy who was also playing Tunnels and Trolls with me. And he'd just come out of the army. He got into what was then 3G phone technology, but he wasn't really enjoying it. So I said to him, there's this D20 license thing that's come out. Do you want to start a games company or what? And he said, yeah. That's basically how it started. We scraped together a grand total of, I think it was £8,000. With that, we funded the development and printing of our first 3 books. That's a rather grand title. These were the Slayer's Guides. They were basically 32-page modules. But that was enough to get everything kickstarted. And I mean, that was 22 years ago. It feels like 6 months ago. But no, that's how Mongoose started. We had our business meetings in a local pub. And we weren't have those meetings. I was in the same pub writing those first 3 books. Always said the first Slayer's Guides were fueled by vodka and Red Bull, but I do not recommend that.
So staying on that topic, then this is where I'll get at you a little bit. Is last symposium we promised our guests we wouldn't go into the OGL stuff because it just broke. And I was going to make that promise this time, except you just made an announcement just a few days ago. So I've been staying on top of my Twitter and noticed. Would you like to address that now or at the end?
In what way? It's got into rather a big subject. In what
is,
way?
Yeah. Well, maybe just generally speaking that Mongoose has announced an OGL for Traveller. How about that?
Yes. It's probably overdue, to be honest. I mean, we had the TAS program on drive-through, but that's kind of focused on one portion. It doesn't have the breadth that a proper open content license has. So we've been umming and ahhing about doing something like this. With what's his announcement, that seemed to be the right time to put our rear ends into gear and actually get it done. So we've been speaking to the Cepheus publishers. Everything's still a little bit up in the air at the moment. We've been talking to them about releasing a 2nd edition SRD using the Orc license, but that doesn't exist at the moment. So it's we've basically got an agreement, a broad range of intentions. So we'll have to see how it is, but it's all looking good, and fingers crossed. Within the next year or so, you'll see lots of new titles with the Traveller Open Content logo on it.
Okay, very cool. I got some more follow-ups, but I don't want to get too much into it, and we'll let the audience see where that conversation goes. But we're going to go back then over to Colin. So, Colin, the next question we have for you that was prepared is, how did you find yourself converting rule sets to Fantasy Grounds? How did you connect with Mongoose Publishing and say you wanted to do Traveller? I know you started with Traveller 1 for Mongoose. I'll let you answer that.
Yeah, well, so I've been coding since before I left school, which was many years ago. And we started playing online, I think in about 2015, 2016, because like a lot of us, when kids arrive, you can't always get together, can you, to get around a table and things. So we used Roll20 at the time, and we found that whilst it scratched some of our itches, it didn't do a very good job, and of course it updated 8 p.m. our time on a Sunday, so it meant one of the gaming nights was definitely out, which wasn't very good. So one of our gamers at the time found Fantasy Grounds. We switched over to playing that because it was app based. It didn't mean updates would kill our gaming evening, and we were very impressed with the rule system. And I was very impressed by the fact that actually, being a coder, I could do stuff myself. And so I did, and I still am.
Yep. What was the first rule set then that you developed officially? Or unofficially, for that matter?
Well, it was meant to be Traveller, but Doug asked me to start on What's Old is New, because at that time they were being promised it by somebody, and that somebody couldn't deliver because I was working on it. Doug said, "Can you get that done?" So I did. It took me about a year to do it because it's a very steep uphill learning experience if there's nothing else before. But that actually helped because I learned some bits there which I then put back into what I was doing, of course, for Traveller. And that's why then a year later, after the first edition, which was then the old edition, was released, I got onto the second edition, and I was still there.
Very cool. We'll get to what you're working on in the future. That'll be a next step question. Just kind of interested in, just for anybody watching, what are the, and I know the answer, it's not for me, but what are really the, how hard is it to get into officially publishing for Smiteworks? Like, what do you got to do? Do you have to be the middleman with a publisher? Those kind of things? What are the things that people got to think about when they want to get into getting an officially licensed rule set on Fantasy Grounds?
I answer that.
You can't answer that.
Who's that for?
Yeah. Is that for us or is that for everybody else?
Well, I guess I know. I know for a fact that Smiteworks has a list of rule sets they would like developed, and they have a forum that Doug has up and James that managed that they're looking for converters, but it's not all inclusive of all TTRPGs out there, and sometimes it's, even if you wanted to publish, say, for a somebody that's doing 5e open game license stuff, they're a small indie publisher, there's a different way to go about it sometimes, and that is just directly asking the publisher if they're interested.
Yeah, like, I work the other way around. I normally ask the publisher first. So I spoke to Matt, because there's no point asking Smiteworks to speak to Matt if Matt says no, is there? And we're both in the UK, and I thought it'd just be nice that people in the UK talk before we go across the seas. And so when I spoke to Matt via email, he just said, "Yeah, fill your boots."
Yeah.
And I did. But yeah, there is a lot of stuff. But all I will say is rule sets can take some time, but it is getting quicker and quicker and quicker, because Super Teddy has been making an awful lot of changes over the last calendar year, hasn't he? Which broke an awful lot of stuff that I'd done in various things. But now that I fixed all that, it's something worthwhile. If you like XML and you like Lua, which is a scripting language, do it. That's what I say, because it's really fun. I still enjoy doing it, and I've been doing it now for 6.5 years.
Very good. Yeah, I'd say the big takeaway I think what I was getting at is it's not that there isn't enough interest from Smiteworks to get more stuff converted and up on their web store. It's the getting the community developers to want to do it, I guess. That's
like I helped out on the Witcher RPG 18 months ago, because I wanted to use it. So I said, best way of me thanking you for all your effort is to fix some of your problems and extend some of your code so it can feature other stuff. And what that then meant was that effectively the person doing it had some issues outside of work with family and stuff, and just said, I can't do this anymore, can you do it? And handed it all over to me. And of course, in the last 8 months, I've had time to do nothing. So I felt upset about that, but there will be a Witcher update very soon when I merge the changes in. But yeah, it's something that anybody can help with, and the best way I think that people can help is to give honest feedback about things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A very open community on the forums on soliciting input. It's very pleasant 99% of the time.
Yeah, I've not been on the forums an awful lot. I found last summer I spent most of my time there, and with what happened in my family and things around that time, not been back, and I will come back at one point, but you can go down that rabbit hole, can't you, reading forums?
Oh yeah.
And spend an awful lot of your time there rather than just focusing on doing the other bits and pieces. But it is good, and I have had some real good feedback and some real good ideas from people who play it. Because at the end of the day, I play one way, you play another, somebody else plays another, and so somebody then comes up with, that it would be useful if you could. And sometimes that if you could is a very quick thing to add. But please, please, please don't compare any other rule set to 5e.
No, we say that at the Fantasy Grounds Academy. That's always the expectation for a different rule set. No, each community rule set has its own developer, dedicated developer that codes their own way to the rule set, not to how they expect 5e to work.
Yeah, but 5e doesn't have spaceship combat, does it?
No, they just barely got vehicles introduced to it.
Yeah, which I'll be stealing to put into the vehicles update.
Oh, that is a question that I saw floating around somewhere on Discord recently, so that's good. We'll leave that question till the end if we got time. But I'm going to come back to Matt. Matt, I've got a link I shared every time, but it's because this is a good one to repeat. It is the release schedule of Mongoose, and it is torrid. That's the word. I'm gonna start putting some of these links in here. The Mongoose release schedule from the website. Right now, as I'm looking at it, just for Traveler, we have a High Guard update 2022. We have a High Guard, the Collector's Edition, Sector Construction Guide, Aliens of Charged Space Volume 3, the Central Supply Catalog update 2023, Jay Taz's 7th through, I could keep scrolling down, at least 12 in the near future. How do you guys stay in on top of this? And then you still have 2300, Shield Maidens, Paranoia, Sea of Thieves. What's going on at Mongoose to keep this up?
It's not much of a secret. We've got 5 full-time employees here. Is their full-time work. Add a bit of organization, such as it is. You got at least a fighting chance of hitting the release schedule. There's no great secret.
So I know like the JTAS, those came off of a Kickstarter. Am I correct?
That's right.
And,
Yes.
and Shield Maiden started as a
A year
Kickstarter.
ago. Yes. Yeah. That's actually the Shield Maidens gets its general release hopefully in the third week of next month.
Nice. And so what does Mongoose? What do we guys do to decide what you're going to target for a Kickstarter release compared to a traditional, just put it in the pipeline release?
By and large, when it comes, okay, it breaks down into three categories. With Traveller, we're always looking for something we're probably doing already, but a Kickstarter will allow us to boost it sky high. The example I always use is the Great Rift box set we did. When the Kickstarter was first fired up, we had already written the box set. It was covered 2 sectors in the Great Rift and was about 200 pages. But by doing it through Kickstarter, we were able to increase that to 400 odd pages in the box set, adding 3 more sectors, plus 3 standalone adventures as well. So we can use the Kickstarter to properly expand the projects. When we first did the JTAS volumes, we had been planning for 3 volumes, but the Kickstarter allows us to push it to 6. That's principally what we do for Traveller. We're looking for interesting projects that could be expanded beyond the original concept. With Shield Maidens was a more traditional reason, in that we really had no idea if there was a market for it or not. So we floated on Kickstarter. It got enough interest, and now we've got a brand new game coming out. And finally, there's the Paranoia Kickstarter we just had. That went on to Kickstarter primarily for marketing reasons. When you've got something well-known like Paranoia, Kickstarter allows you to punch much, much further in getting the word out than just hitting the normal forums.
Awesome. Excellent insight. Thank you. We have a couple more questions that are pre-generated. I've shared some with us in the Discord. We'll probably try to wrap up what I got in about 8 minutes, and that gives 30 minutes of an open platform for everybody, I think. So I'm going to move over to Colin. My next question that I have for you is, what are the best bits of Traveller, Mongoose or other, that you like the most? I don't know how long you've been playing Traveller. Did you play Traveller prior to Mongoose? Going back to GDW? Anything in between? GURPS, Mega Traveller, stuff like that?
Yeah, I did. I started playing with the little black books after I left school in the 80s as well. The GM that introduced us to Fantasy Grounds introduced me to Traveller. And because it's sci-fi, and sci-fi is my biggest like of everything that I read and watch, I had no excuse. I had to play it. But for me, my sweet spot was 2300 AD, because it came out after the Aliens film, didn't it? And it felt very Aliens. And it felt very action-based, whereas Traveller at the time was quite deadly in action. If somebody comes up to you with a tech level 6 weapon higher than yours, you tend to not survive the encounter. And 23 AD just, it was younger in its years, being only 100 years from now, and so everything was a lot more balanced, and I really, really enjoyed it. But I played Mega Traveller as well in the 90s. Thought that was fantastic. And then back to playing Traveller, not through GURPS, but Mongoose's first edition. I don't know, 10. What year are we? 23 now, so probably about 15 years ago. I like simple systems. I like systems that don't get in the way of what you're trying to do and play a game. And 2d6 is really, really simple, isn't it, at the end of the day? Yep. Yeah, roll these, try and get 8 or more. Brilliant. And I can add 3 to that roll because I'm skilled in it. Mm-hmm. No real complications with the system, which just means story comes first and characters. And I think a lot of the systems that I play, especially in the last 10 years, have always been story first. Even though I like, of course, a couple of Chaosium rule sets, which dice roll everything. You get a different enjoyment out of that, don't you? Because if everything is pushed on a dice roll, sometimes it's out of your hands. And so, yeah, Chaosium have done some very good stuff. Call of Cthulhu is one of my favourites as well. And I suppose you can find a good rule set, can't you, per game genre that you want to play? And for fantasy, sci-fi kind of stuff, Traveller just scratches many of the itches. And it's really enjoyable. And it still is enjoyable. And it's not heavily changed from what it was 40 years ago. But it has changed in some parts. And I do like some of the parts that have changed. And I like all the new books. All the books are shiny.
Oh yeah. All right, so what I'll do is I got my last two questions that were prepared was what you have coming out the pipeline that you guys want to share. We'll save that to the very end, at the final 5 minutes, if it doesn't come up, because we got guests here that got questions for you all, and I don't want to go over on time. You guys have been very gracious with your time, giving it to us on a Tuesday evening and certain personal holidays. So we'll go ahead. I'm gonna go real quick. The rules for open mic for those that are with us in Discord. I can see just about everybody has a mic muted. If you would wish to speak, just go ahead and open your mic, and I'll call on you. I'm watching it. If you're not comfortable talking, you could actually type your question in chat in the voice channel or in the Discord text channel. We have Windrunner is monitoring our Twitch. You'll be able to verbalize the questions that come across there. So at this time, anybody have any questions for Matt or Colin? I got one text one. We'll start with that one, and then we'll keep rotating. So from BNB, since it seems to be the theme for the month, what's the official policy for MG Traveler consumer content? Is that for Mega Traveler consumer content that wind up in the Forge? Simple things like pre-gen characters and basic one-shots. Mongoose Traveler, I'm sorry. MG Traveler, I was thinking Mega Traveler when I saw that. Mongoose Traveler. So, I don't know who wants to take this one. And are you familiar with, Matt? Are you familiar with the Forge? How there's a different sales?
I'm not. I'm afraid not, no.
Yeah,
that might be a Colin one.
Yeah, well, on Forge then, so Mongoose has released 2 free adventures, Death Station and Stranded. They're both on Forge. What Forge allows you to do, Matt, really is put up other content that you can either give away or you can charge a few gold coins for, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Everything I've got up there is free. I do it free, and if people want to donate some money to me, help themselves. There is a reasonable amount of stuff up there for Traveller, but it's mostly maps and things, isn't it, at the moment?
Yeah, say Feroid has done a phenomenal job doing the deck plans and the starports and all his stuff using. I think he's using Blender right now. It kind of for Matt. It is. How do I want to say this? It's almost as if it's like a drive-through RPG. The Forge is for task content, but it's licensing. It's a gray area, and I think this is why this question is coming up.
Right.
Yeah, Doug would have emailed you, Matt, with whether or not you wanted products in there. I would have thought. I
don't think I've seen anything.
That would have been some time ago. That would have been.
Yeah, so that'll be why don't I put an email together afterwards just so everybody's aware of it, because the community would like to create content and share it and have it operate probably similar to the task program does at Drive-Thru RPG. I suspect that might be where that question is coming from. And you could correct me otherwise, BNB, but so we'll get that. We'll put that to paper, and you guys feel free to add more tidbits to this as we go. We could add to that email. All right, so I got another question now from Agent Wiggles. What's up with the asteroid book and the eventual merchant prince line? So that one's for Matt.
Yeah. Okay. We have a number of frontline writers for Traveller, the likes of Martin Gear and Chris Griffin. And they all have a list of projects, the list as long as your arm, of things that we want them to do and things they want to do. Both Martin and Chris have had some quite long discussions about first full-blown belt mining book, asteroid mining, both shooting rocks with lasers, but also setting up mining bases and what have you. And that kind of leads to an economy system that we can then build on for a full-blown Merchant Prince book. Martin is currently tied up with the Fifth Frontier War. Chris is working on the new big Singularity campaign. So I imagine we're looking at getting that written sometime next year.
All right, Agent Wiggles might be following up on that. I see some text coming through. Keep... boo. All right. I'm watching Discord, everyone. If I see a mic come off mute, I'll call on you, and you could actually ask your question out loud. Don't be shy. If not, I have enough questions to take us all the way to the top of the hour.
Nothing else coming in from Twitch right now, so you go ahead.
All right, so I'll ask. This one is for Matt. This was going to be more on the more about Mongoose Publishing. So I don't know if it was a blog post, maybe forum post, Facebook post about Mongoose Publishing and the ownership structure, let's say, of the employees and the company.
Yeah.
Would you like to touch on that, Matt? And I think it's very interesting. I wish my employer did it.
It's a long-term thing. We've been building up to it for probably 3 or 4 years now. The basic idea is at some point, whenever this might be, Mongoose will turn into an employee-owned company. Leading up to that point, the staff here are being trained not just in their own jobs, but also how to run a business, but also encouraging them to think more as if they were employers than being employees. This has led to them gaining a lot of responsibility and authority, and learning how the company is structured, how it runs, how to keep it going without making it nosedive into the ground. And this really does lead through to all aspects of the company now. There is very little decision making going on, where I'm now just saying, right, we're going to be doing X, Y, and Z. Instead, what normally happens is sit everyone down, explain the situation or opportunity that's come up, and they talk it through, they figure things out. I did see a reference somewhere in some business manual about the owner of the company in that situation being like the catcher in the rye, the guy who's at the edge of the cliff. The children are playing in the rye field, and they come shooting out, and he grabs them before they run off the edge of the cliff. That's kind of what I'm doing with the staff here at the moment. So they're making decisions, they're going ahead and doing their own things in terms of business, but I'm always just over their shoulders, ready to grab them just in case something goes horribly wrong.
I think someone definitely needs to make a cartoon of that, Matt. Like that picture of you grabbing all of the designers, the game designers, as they're running off the cliff. That's great.
Yeah, I mean the general aim is, firstly, they've got something real to work for at the moment. It's not just a case of if Project X, Y, and Z does a bit better, or maybe we get another 100 odd quid in our Christmas bonus package. They're actually building their own futures at the moment. When we got to the point where now every day one of them is going through monitoring all the accounts, the various bank accounts of the company. They've all got full access to the accounts. There's a summary in every Monday morning meeting where somebody goes through all the figures for the past week. This is what we've done. This is how badly or how good we've been doing. So they're all very much aware exactly where the company is at any one time. I say we've got to the point where they're now at the end of every month deciding whether they should get paid a bonus or not, and how much that bonus should be. And that does sound a bit like they're being told they can pour their own drinks, but they are already at the stage where they know enough about the company that they know not to delve too deeply.
All right, we got some more questions coming in. Thank you, Matt. That's I think that's fantastic. I've promised we got Colin and Mace. We're gonna go in order on them. They've got some questions that they're gonna ask, and then we'll go back to the texts. But Colin, you're gonna be first. Go ahead, Colin.
First of all, two statements I really liked. You put out about well, Matt, what you put out about how you were turning the company over. You're working toward that. But the kitchen looked really good. Let's face it. I mean, that was pretty cool. Look at the kitchen. As a guy
they've just made bacon and egg sandwiches. It was great.
Yeah. So the kitchen was awesome. Secondly, I got your JTAS 7. I ordered that. I've got the PDF. Looks really good. The editing and your artwork. You guys really edit an artwork really well, putting that together. So that was really cool. But the question I got is, I really liked the actual play that you got, that I guess it was Glass Cannon did and stuff. Do you know of any other actual plays that are coming up, or you guys gonna be working with? And that's my two statements and a question.
Yeah, I mean, we're always got our eyes out, and there are a couple of other groups that we're talking to at the moment. It would be lovely if we could do our own actual play with the people working here at Mongoose. We don't have the technology to do it justice at the moment. So that's something for the future.
Okay. All right. Next up, Mace.
Yeah, this question basically for Colin or whoever might be able to answer. Since Mongoose has put out so much content for 2300 AD, is there a rule set on the horizon for Fantasy Grounds?
Yes. What I'm currently doing with it, it was built for Gun Bunny Fufu. To test it, it needs updating because it got broke with all the changes last year at the core RPG. But what I've decided to do to save myself from many headaches is the updates that are coming out very soon for Mongoose Traveller will actually have inside it 2300 rule set as well, and it'll be feature switched depending upon which rule set you load, meaning I've only got one rule set to fix. And it also means if I do one thing in one and the other one has it, you get it in both at the same time. So I would say, with the way things are going inside Smiteworks, 3 months, maybe 4 months. But I've split the conversion duties with Gun Bunny Fufu, who is, if I look at my little spreadsheet, says he will be working on the aerospace book soon. Hope that helps.
Yeah, great. Yep. Cole, we had a few questions about 2300. I think that answers it.
Yeah, 2300 is wonderful. I love 2300, and the 2300 rule set has all the image work added automatically to record sheets and everything that Traveller is now starting to get. So it looks a lot better and it works a lot better. And I've been toying with the combat tracker about allowing vehicles, ships, and people to be in the same combat tracker. That has some challenges, though, still to solve.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm going to scroll back up a little bit. We're getting past some of the text that I missed, some text questions. So I think Agent Wiggles. Yep, we'll get to this out. So this is going to be coming for you, Matt. We do have a specific question to you about the OGL. As I warned you, I wasn't going to not drive us in a different direction. But we have, how did Mongoose as a whole weather some of the disparagement and fallout from the Hasbro OGL fiasco?
There was one point when our newest staff member did ask me, why are they being so mean to us? But on the whole, it wasn't a problem. We knew where people were coming from. Nobody knew, least of all us, exactly what was happening with the OGL. So it was just a case of keep talking to the Cepheus publishers and see what happens. As simple as that.
Great. Coming back down, BNB. This, I don't know who this one's for, so I'll let you both try to answer it. Is paranoia coming to Fantasy Grounds?
that's one for Colin.
Right, I'll be brutally honest with this. I don't play paranoia very much. So even though I finished the rule set, last summer, and the core book, I just didn't get around to finalizing it, and then everything that happened past that meant that I couldn't do anything anyway. That's why I've done nothing for 8 months. I spoke to Matt very briefly at some Dragon Meet, wasn't it? I think. Yeah, bumped into each other, and what we've agreed is that Paranoia will come out when the new Paranoia launches, which is
summerish.
Yeah. So Matt sent me across the earlier books, and I'm pleased to say that with the cards being taken out, that's made things considerably easier to do. So expect to see that in the summer.
Okay. I'm comparing two chat channels for timestamps. I think I'm coming up to Camber Me. All right, so Camber Me. Paizo has Starfinder Society, Pathfinder Society, 5e has Adventurers League. Does Mongoose have any plans on any sort of a structured 4-hour organized game session type of play that players or GMs can earn points to better themselves? So that one's for Matt.
We've mucked around with this side of we've mucked around with something like this before. We had a short run of I think we called it a Living Traveller campaign back in the day. In a nutshell, we don't have the infrastructure to do that at the moment. Let's say we've got 5 staff members working for us full time, and we are almost purely a design house these days. We are in the midst of looking for a new recruit, a brand manager, and that is something that would eventually fall under their aegis. But until then, we haven't got the capacity for it at the moment.
Fair enough. There's that answer. All right, thank you. Coming up, timestamp. I'm comparing. How we looking, Windrunner, on Twitch? Any questions coming in?
No questions from Twitch.
Okay, we have a bunch.
Yeah, keep going through these,
okay.
And I've got one eventually for Colin. So
all right, well, we'll see. We still got 17 minutes left on our scheduled time, so I'm going to go to Ferroid. So Ferroid, this is a more OGL and Forge stuff. Ferroid, he's the one I mentioned, does the phenomenal map work over on the Forge for us. He says, I was hoping with the SRD and OGL. With the SRD and OGL work going on, that maybe the Forge would be part of the discussion as a distribution channel for content linked to the rule set. They seem to be in a very early stages in those talks, so maybe that's something that could be part of your future OGL SRD. including that?
Potentially. Everything's on the table at the moment. But we're keen to support VTTs, so let's put that under the probably category at the moment.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be sure to mention that in the email I put together. Okay, on that chat. I'm out of questions over there. I think we are over here. Well, a lot of questions coming in on this side. Agent Wiggles. I don't know if I got this question. I missed word that came in what the topic was. You have a growing list of Traveler AP. All right, so this question from Chumbly, Mad Beardman. Have you considered adding an org button? Thinking in particular naval and mercenary lists. I'm assuming the sidebar of Fantasy Grounds. I'm talking about setting up an organization. Am I interpreting that question correctly, Chumbly?
Yeah. No is the answer to that. Truthful answer. Lee is doing the Merc box and some of the adventures and bits and pieces. So if he wants it adding, it'll get added. If it's really useful, it's really simple, then just send it to me. Send it to me on Discord and I'll get it looked at. Because I like simple stuff. And before anybody says, Ship's Lockers is not simple stuff. Thanks.
Okay. Next up, I think from Boltar, Gun Bunny Fufu may have been defending himself on the 2300 AD. Boltar, question. Ever consider creating a sandbox campaign centered around a Babylon 5 Deep Space Nine style of space station? Maybe a Flammarian space station and the Spinward marches to work as a center point for a build-up for the next frontier war.
Very interesting idea. We did kind of allow for that in, of all things, the Naval Campaign Handbook that's in the Element Cruisers box set. I mean, the presumption is that you're going to be the command crew of a big capital ship. But we mentioned in the book itself, there's this works perfectly well as a command crew on a space station. So possibly, yeah, we got all the tools we need there.
Excellent. Another one from Agent Wiggles. Is there a book coming out this year that Mongoose is looking forward to?
All of them. We got a rule here. We don't do a game or a book unless there's at least one person in the office who is a real champion for it. And the golden rule is we produce the games that we want to play ourselves. I mean, it's no accident that we do Traveller and Paranoia, and those were the two games I was playing when I was a teenager. I think to pick out two special ones. Yeah, in fact, next month I'm expecting two manuscripts to come in from two brand new books. The first one is from Martin. It's Wrath of the Ancients, which we're already beginning to lay out Mysteries of the Ancients, which is the prequel to our Secrets of the Ancients campaign. And Wrath of the Ancients rounds it out as a full-blown trilogy that frankly will take you months and months to play, but you get to see the final conclusion and what threat or not the Ancients will be to the whole of charted space. The second one I'm really looking forward to is simply called Bounty Hunter. It brings with it a whole new campaign type. So in Traveller, you got your trader campaign, your explorers, your mercenary campaigns. Here we're adding bounty hunting, either as a separate campaign style of itself, or something that you can add into an existing trade style campaign if you wish. You'll be able to build up your bounty hunters, gain reputation as bounty hunters, and then engage in various contracts and warrants to track your prey down across the stars. It's not Charted Space Universe dependent. You'll be able to use it in any setting. And so, yeah, you'll be able to really unleash your inner Mandalorian with that one.
All right. I got two back-to-back release questions, so I'll just pose them both, even though they're very different. First one is, how goes the 5th Frontier War? And any more info on the Traveler video game?
Okay. 5th Frontier War, I can actually say yes. I can finally say yes. Martin is just, as I said, he's just finishing that Wrath of the Ancients in the next 2 or 3 weeks. I should have the manuscript. After that, he's already about halfway through a Rim Expeditions source book. But after that, he is starting work properly on the 5th Frontier War. We formed a little triumvirate, him, myself, and Mr. Miller. We are just starting to talk about what we want to see from the 5th Frontier War, the kind of books we want to see, the territory we're covering, and crucially how it ends. And then we're coming next month. We're going to be getting together, basically face to face, and hashing all of that out. But yes, work properly starts on the 5th Frontier War. Well, basically now we already know what the first book's going to be. We're not going to hit you with a massive source book at all. It's going to be a 96 to 128 page mini campaign. You'll be able to use existing travelers in it, and you might just find it was your travelers that started the 5th Frontier War. Sorry, what was the second one?
Video game.
I see, yes. Slow process. It's a fairly small outfit that's working on it at the moment. They do good work. They've already released 2 video games based on our Victory at Sea miniatures naval game, and they're about to release a third for that soon. And it's going to be, I believe, full bore on the first Traveller video game. The first one is tentatively called Traveller Vanguard, covering boarding actions in the 5th Frontier War. Isometric squad-based game, but with a full campaign system built behind it. So you'll be figuring out which units you want to send to the power plant, which were to the bridge, and dealing with problems along the way. That, whilst being a full-blown game, is being used to test out the movement and combat systems, or rather nail them down. In preparation for release of a full-blown RPG at a later date. So there is a process there, but the video games take notoriously long time to put together. So we're still waiting for that, but progress is being made.
All right. I got 2 more questions, one from Agent Wiggles, one from Boltar. I'm gonna ask Agent Wiggles, and then I'm gonna be watching for open mics, and we'll let the open mics get some in before we run out of time. But Agent Wiggles asks, can you give us a synopsis of the structure of the Bounty Hunter book? That's something that the fan community has talked about a lot.
Yeah. In a nutshell, without going into too much details, and bear in mind it hasn't gone through editing yet, so this could change. We don't have a bounty hunter career. We wanted to avoid that. Firstly, because it's the easiest thing in the world to start stacking new careers into Traveller, and with the broad range of careers in the core rulebook, almost none of them have much utility at all, apart from a bit of flavour. So what we've done is you start creating your travellers as normal, going through their careers. And at some point, you can say, okay, this character is now going to start bounty hunting. And at that point, you get a choice whenever you roll for events. Roll on your normal events chart or roll on your bounty hunting chart. And that can help build up or destroy your bounty hunter's reputation. So when you finish your career and you go freelance bounty hunting, so to speak, You might already be a badass bounty hunter feared across the galaxy, or maybe no one's heard of you at all. That's the way Traveller creation goes. But beyond that, we have delved a little into specialized bounty hunting equipment, bounty hunting ships. Not too much. It's very tempting to go down that route, but we want it to be more about the characters than the equipment. So if you combine it with Central Supply Catalog, you're going to get a unique looking bounty hunter. But we focus more on the actual bounty hunting missions, the contracts you take, how to create them. There is a random creation tool in there, but we got example missions to go on as well. It's more about how to track people down and capture them at the end. In a nutshell, that's what you'll find in the book.
Excellent, thank you. We still got a little bit of time. Camber Me is off mic. Go ahead, Camber Me. You got a question?
So when I was creating a character, going through the different jobs and everything, I noticed this is kind of a two-part question. To get into university, you have to have a high education. What about the sports people, like a jock or something like that? Also, then that leads to my second question. There's entertainers, but there's no athletics. What sports does the Traveller world have?
Okay. Firstly, on the university question, if you wanted to go down that particular route, you can simply swap out education for strength, dex, or endurance as you see fit. The reason we didn't have that choice in the core rulebook is because Traveller core rulebook is supposed to be under 200 pages in size. We don't like big fat rulebooks because they just scare the willies out of people. It's at 240 something pages at the moment. We didn't have room for every possible option. As for what sports are in Traveller, there's thousands of worlds. They've all got their own sports. I think I can't recall any off the top of my head. We have delved into one or two unique sports on specific worlds. They are in there, but as for the one sport that is followed across charted space, there won't be one. There's just too many worlds out there.
Okay. I'm going to combine Boltar's. He's got an older question and a newer question. I'm going to combine them. Looks like they're coming for you, Colin. So, any thoughts about implementing a function or automation for players dodging and parrying attacks? That's question one. And question two from Boltar is any way we could get portraits such as assets and art from Mongoose artists to use in game, more stock art for like Vargra and Aslan and stuff.
Okay, first question, and yes, it's possible. RuneQuest, which I've been working on for too long, has a new way of using the combat tracker. When you're attacked, if you know the rule set in that, your opponent has a chance to parry, and another roll is made. So I've implemented a system there where all actions require two activities in most things. I could certainly look at putting that into Traveller. You've got my brain thinking now how easy it would be to do that, but that is possible. Second thing, FGU has a lot better image control than Fantasy Grounds Classic ever had. So yes, we could do that. As far as art goes, though, I would need Matt's permission to effectively create a module full of art, because there is so much art out there, NPC art, so many. It must be 200 or 300, I would have thought, at least. We could bolt that into the currently supplied books, I suppose, as individual pieces of art, but they should already be there. I'd check if I were you, and I'll look at that. Again, DM me with a bit more information, and I'll have a think about it. But again, it's a nice, easy one, that one is.
All right, with 1 minute left on our schedule, I have one question I think I haven't asked, and then we'll see if anybody else has anything. But from Original Caruso, this one's going to be for Matt. As a newbie returning after 40 years, the Traveler universe has changed a lot. I'd like to see more location-agnostic adventures to ease myself and my players into the game. What's in the pipeline?
I get where you're coming from. When we do adventures, we do almost always set them on a specific world. Not always the main world of a system, but we do say it's kind of around this area. The idea there is it gives referees facing a campaign in a specific area an easy and ready source of material to use. However, we often have a nod, even though we've named this world. There's absolutely no reason you can't change the name and cite it somewhere else. I mean, I did see somebody was relocating High and Dry, which is in the southern region of the Spinwood Marches. They'd relocated it to the Sindel subsector in Trojan Reach. It often is, whenever you get an adventure that's contained on a single world, it is very easy to transport it wherever you need it. It's when you start hopping out between stars that it becomes important where it is. So on that note, most of our 32-page, say 32, they often go up to like 70 pages. Missions are set on one specific world, and so you can place them anywhere, really.
If you don't mind going 2 minutes over, I did miss a question, Matt. You got time to take it?
Of course.
All right. So, this is from Chumley. Any chance of any more adventures in various culture-setting books in the Vargra extents?
Yes, is the quick answer. The path we've been taking is basically doing a sector book covering 2 sectors, and then padding it out with adventures. So you've got you don't just get a pretty source book; you've got a jumping off point for a campaign for them. Incidentally, the next sector book is going to be Trading Frontier, covering Gateway and Ley sectors, and there's already some adventures going on there. Vargia Extents, you're going to see pop up a fair bit in the 5th Frontier War to begin with. However, a future sector book set in that region, I think, would be absolutely fascinating. We did got a set of Empires books coming out. We've already done Third Imperium that talks all about the Third Imperium, but also gives you a full sector in that area. I can tell you the Zodania is going to be next, but at some point we're going to do the Vargia. That book is going to be hilarious, and we'll make sure you've got everything you need to play in the Vargia extents with that.
All right, we still got questions coming in, but I've told my guests that we're going to keep them at an hour. They have they have other things to get to this evening, so sorry BNB. I'm gonna probably call it there. I want to thank everybody for coming. We are a few minutes over our slotted time. Matt and Colin, thank you so much for doing this again. Having you guys here every year is a big deal for us, and just having this kind of support for a licensed Mongoose product on Fantasy Grounds is a big deal. It's
you're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. And that's a nice way to make us feel old, isn't it?
A little backhanded, maybe. I didn't even think about what I said. So, all right, I'm going to kill the stream. Everybody that's here is welcome to hang around and come off mute and chat and just talk about what we want to talk about, Traveler. But we're gonna make it officially end on Twitch. So thank you all who's been here watching. We are ending our stream.